Hello. So I come to you today not as a self-proclaimed guru who is going to heal you from your loneliness. Instead, I'm just a human who has experienced a lot of loneliness in my life, and I still experience loneliness. And I just want to share what I've learned from it, my continual working understanding of what I feel like loneliness is at its core, and yeah, just some reflections on it. So that's what today is going to be about. Just for a little bit of personal context, first of all, hi, my name's Mariah. This is my channel, Kaladara Creations, and right now I'm actually in solitude, like in intentional solitude, meaning I'm like choosing to be alone, which I feel like I have been choosing to be alone in a lot of ways in my life. We'll get there. But meaning I am staying in a space that's quite far away from people, and it's like entering month 2 now of just spending time with myself, having minimal human interaction just when I go out to get groceries, having brief moments of conversation. And funny enough, throughout my time in solitude, I feel like I've felt the least loneliness that I have felt in a while, to be honest with you, which I feel like kind of gets at the next question, which is, what is loneliness? And this can be taken so many different ways. And like I said, I'm just sharing my own personal reflections, personal perceptions on it. So take what's supportive, leave what's not. I feel like loneliness, distilled down to its like most simplest core definition, is this sense of disconnection, which I feel like speaks to how I said I've been alone, yet I'm experiencing less loneliness, because through this time while being in solitude, I've been spending so much time connecting to myself and really just like taking care of myself and turning my attention inwards, as opposed to being constantly distracted and just turning away from myself. I feel like loneliness really stems from this perpetual turning away from ourselves, because let's be honest here, I feel like so many of us experience loneliness. So side note, in a way, it's like we have this like connection point of all experiencing loneliness, which is interesting. But loneliness isn't just necessarily not having people around you. I feel like it can come up even when you're around a bunch of people. And sometimes it comes up more when you're around a lot of people, because it is this sense of disconnection and emptiness. And for me, I feel like I sometimes feel more alone when I'm in a space with other people, where there feels like there's just this lack of intimacy, this lack of depth and true connection with the people that I'm around. And yeah, it's been challenging, because for me, with my experience of loneliness, it's not like I don't see there being opportunities for making friends. Like, I notice there are ways that I can go out and talk to people, but for me, it feels like a perpetual lack of resonance. And in the past, I have definitely been in a lot of really unhealthy romantic relationships, and I've had a lot of friendships that I feel like weren't so healthy, I will say. I feel that they were in alignment for me at that point in time, meaning how I was showing up, how I was expressing who I was at that time was in alignment with those connections. Yet in a lot of ways, I still felt this loneliness in these connections, because they feel like they lacked true intimacy, the intimacy that I was deeply desiring. I've had moments of, having intimacy in the sense where I can like talk to people about my feelings, which is really beautiful to have that. Yet my personal hang up in connection seems to be this resonance factor, where I'm now in a much more discerning space of my life of really not trying to just jump into a relationship, a friendship, just for the sake of having friends, just to fill this void of loneliness. Because in a way, that is a behavior that is avoiding that feeling, this loneliness, this sense of disconnection. So I feel like by just jumping into a friendship just so that I don't feel alone, that's not going to truly alleviate this feeling of loneliness, because it is an avoidant behavior. And I have done this before in my life with people, with behaviors, just doing something to avoid that ache, as opposed to truly listening and checking in with myself and being like, is this connection, is this behavior, is this choice in resonance? Does this actually feel like a yes for me? And when something in me says no, then it's like pausing, because the more in tune I get with what my system says as yes or no, there still can be that pull to like hear the no and be like, okay, this is a no, but that desire to have that temporary relief for a moment of filling the void. And I'm just really in a phase of my life where it's like I've done that so much, and I see how that ripples out. It feels like a loop, where it's like if I'm making a choice from a space that feels lonely, that feels like it's in lack, and then I make this choice, then it's just gonna stay in this loop, because ultimately it's about where the choice is coming from. And if it's coming from that lack, then it's never going to actually get me to the space of feeling aligned with the connection, because it's coming from disconnection. So as many people say, you know, I feel like the change comes within, and it really is listening to your internal wisdom, listening to something deep within you that says yes or no, and actually honoring that. But of course, to listen to that, you have to find that connection point to really meet that part of yourself that really cuts past all of the quick fix temptations that we all experience, to really get to what it is that feels in resonance with something deeper. So I feel like a really important step in this process is to actually get in connection with yourself. A lot of the times I feel like the thing that we want to avoid is actually the thing that is the most supportive for us, where when we feel lonely, the last thing we want to do is be alone. So that's usually where the gold is in that loneliness, to really dive into the depths of the loneliness and to meet yourself there, you know? And then it's like throughout that, the loneliness transforms and it no longer feels lonely, and you can be in solitude, you can be with yourself and not necessarily ache for something more. Or if you do feel that ache, to recognize the space it's coming from, the lack, to see it as it is, and just to choose to move from a space that is more of trust. I really do see the truth in the like famous quote, you know, it's like that which you resist persists. Like truly, whenever we're making a choice from a space of lack, from fear, from avoidance, then we just create more of that. And then it just feeds the space that we're in, and we feel like we're looping. And then it's like, I'm forever lonely, I'm forever lonely. It's like taking a step back and checking ourselves. Am I making choices from the loneliness, or am I making choices from the space that actually feels connected? And I know stuff has gotten very new agey of like manifestation and all of that. I do see nuggets of truth within it, and I do see it being distorted. But I will say, on the topic of manifestation, on the topic of just in general, like bringing your dreams, bringing what you want to create into reality, I feel like it's so important to really recognize that version of you that is living within the dream that you want to step into, to recognize how it is that they are showing up, how are they moving. And if you think about it, the version of me that feels deeply fulfilled in terms of relationship and connections, and has these connections that feel in resonance, intimacy, true intimacy, she doesn't feel like she lacks that because she has that. So really, to align with that version of me, it is to move from that same space that she moves from feeling deeply fulfilled, as if there is not a lack in it. And then this is the trippy part, because it's like we constantly see the evidence out in front of us and we're like, well, it's not here. So then we fall back into the fear. And there's this quote that may be from the Bible or something. It goes along the lines of like, faith is the substance of our dreams, something. Don't fully quote me on that, but I really see faith as a substance. It's like faith is what clothes your reality into your dreams. Am I making sense here? Like, it's like when you walk with faith, then all of a sudden you don't need evidence, because your external starts to line up with that which you have faith in, because you're moving from that space, and then that ripples out into your reality. Instead of treating what is in front of you as evidence that you don't have what you want, it is moving from the space that you already have it. And of course, you know, I don't want to go too far down this like new age path of like not really recognizing what is in front of you, because of course it's important to have a reality check of what's in front of you, of constantly keeping yourself in check and being honest with yourself. Like, am I actually showing up, making choices, behaving in ways that are in alignment with what I want? And to hold yourself responsible to showing up in integrity with your dreams. Because if you really get clear on what it is that you truly desire, and then get clear on what it takes for you to step into that, there also needs to be a degree of responsibility. Because if you truly want to manifest it into reality, you want to move from a space of creator consciousness, you have to move from a sense of responsibility. So this has gone on a bit of a tangent, but I suppose it circles back, because like I said, loneliness, I feel at its core, is just this sense of disconnection. connection. So when we connect to something much deeper, to this creator consciousness, to this source, when we connect to the source, to ourself, we can use all these words interchangeably, but like to something deep within us, then it's like we don't need to try to force connection. You don't need to try to force it from this space of loneliness. It's just going to unravel, like it's going to happen because it's already happening. Like you are connected. When you tend to that connection inwards, then things will just unravel. What you deeply desire will just start happening. I really do believe this, and I have seen this in my life in many ways. And perhaps it's not even about getting rid of loneliness, because loneliness may just be one way the system signals that this disconnection is happening. So to get rid of loneliness would potentially be like getting rid of your internal alarm system, which is helpful in many ways. Just like getting rid of your survival instincts would be not helpful. Yes, they can get hyperactive, but there is a wisdom to them. So perhaps loneliness is just a signal, and it's a call for deeper connection with ourselves. And then through that, all that we desire, the connection unravels because it is already here. And I really have seen in so many ways, as soon as I stopped like searching so hard for something and like grasping for it, I guess just moving from the space of lack, it just unravels. And for me, quality over quantity is so important. Truly, truly. I don't care to have a million people in my life. I prefer true, deep connections that meet me in true intimacy, that meet me in integrity, and that feel in alignment with my values, in alignment with my energy. We all, have different resonance points. We are all in different phases in our life. And there's nothing right or wrong. There's no need for a hierarchy, like I can't be friends with these peasants. It's not like that. It's more so just a matter of like who's on our resonance, who's on our vibe, who shows up in the ways that feel in alignment with what I deeply value. Because if I pursue and feed connections that feel like there's not that alignment, then I just feel out of connection with myself, which triggers that sense of loneliness. So I feel there needs to be a responsibility in that, of recognizing our choices. It's not the other person's fault. They're living their life as they are, and it's important for me to be in tune with what feels like a yes, what feels like a no, and to honoring that and moving from that and choosing that. And yeah, so I just prefer quality over quantity, and that's what I'm choosing. And despite feeling the loneliness at times, I'm continually learning how to recognize that feeling when it comes up and to orient to it in a different way than I have in the past, to treat it as a call inward and to meet myself. Yeah, just trusting that things will unravel from that connection. So that's just a little bit of my reflections and perception on loneliness and what I'm unraveling here in my life, in my solitude. And yeah, this is definitely something I have struggled with a lot of my life, most of my life. Honestly, like growing up, just feeling like I didn't really have a lot of true intimacy in family and friendships and different things. I don't want to disregard the value that they've had. I have a lot of love for the people that have been in my life, but in true honesty, it's just felt like a lack of connection. And ultimately, that's just something that will find transformation as I turn inward. And it has in many ways, and it still is continuing to do so. So I'm just on my learning journey. I'm just a humaning, and I've been choosing to come on here and share as I adventure through life. And maybe something I've shared has supported you in some way. That would be cool. But ultimately, there's something within me that is asking me to show up and express in this way. And I've had a lot of insecurities and doubts arise throughout this process. But I feel that when something within me asks for me to step up in a way like I am now, and I turn away from it, then I end up feeling disconnected. So yeah, here I am, and I feel like I have found more connection to myself through learning how to share in front of a camera, how to articulate these things. And yeah, I'm excited for this journey is what I'm saying, to continue this. So those are my thoughts. I'm gonna wrap this video up, and till next time, many more to come.